into the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Good evening, AfterBuzzers. Welcome to the People vs. O.J. Simpson American Crime Story After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. I am your host, Pegah Rad. You can find me on Twitter at Pegah Rad. I'm joined by the lovely
Stephanie Giorgi. You can follow me on Twitter at Stephanie Giorgi.
Shaka Smith. You can follow me at Shaka Strong on Twitter and Instagram.
And Chris Howard. You can follow me Twitter and Instagram at Chris Howard Live, as well as legendarylivingdaily.com for tips, motivation, different types of things, and legendarylivingtv.com.
We also have a very special guest with us today, Angel Parker, who plays Sean Chapman. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me and for
Absolutely.
teaching me how to Snapchat.
Yeah, we got you in there.
She just snapped.
Yeah.
She did.
It's difficult. It was like Twitter for me, because Twitter, I could not understand for the life of me the culture of it for like 3 years, and then I got it. And Snapchat's a little bit difficult too, but you'll get the hang of it.
I just feel like I have so many. I'm like, I have to learn another one. And then it disappears, and I'm like, where did it go?
Yes. Now she's 30. Oh my God.
Look at
I
you.
apologize. I was going to say.
I'm proud. I'm 35. I don't care.
Okay, well, I turned 46.
They put it on line anyway, how old you are.
That's why I was making fun of him, because he'd be doing stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't care.
People
I mean, you could get slapped by somebody else, but I don't care. I'm 35, proud of it. I got
just
2
wondering-
kids. I'm a grown woman.
What?
Yes. Follow me on Snapchat.
See, I'm wondering if for every 10 years your ability goes down or something.
I don't know. My
Snapchat.
kids just fix things for me now too, so it's fine. I've totally turned into that cliche mom.
So today we're going to be talking about episode 8, titled "A Jury in Jail," and boy, did it seem like they were in jail. That is crazy. I had no idea that being sequestered was like jail.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Legit.
It was really nice to see that side of it, though, because we really had been focused on the trial the entire time, but like there's just this whole other thing that was going on. You know, we forget about the story as a whole.
And the gamesmanship, I just love the idea of how they were kind of gaming the system,
Right?
and just playing with the jury, not even the facts of the case.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah.
Everything that was happening, I felt like they were snipers. Like just picking the jury off.
absolutely.
Taking different jury members out.
But they do that in real trials.
Yeah.
I mean, the jury is who gives you your verdict, so they definitely do that. And there's people that's their whole job is to pick the jury and to assess who's gonna be beneficial to the defense or the prosecution. So yeah, I was excited that they did an entire episode about the jury. I think it's important.
It was really eye-opening. I mean, I had no idea what that whole process was like, so it definitely shed some light on that. But it was still funny how, it showed day 124, but then we quickly go back to 8 months prior, where they're like, I get to watch football and, raid the mini fridge.
You're in a hotel.
Well, it was fancy hotel. It was the trial of the century. People knew that. People were trying to get on that jury. So it was the big hot thing, but you don't realize what that means.
Yeah.
You think, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do all this stuff. And it's like, no, you're going to be stuck in a hotel room for 8 months. So,
8 months. Do you think they had any idea that they were going to be there for almost a year of their life when they were going into it?
Nobody did.
That's
Nobody
ridiculous.
did. And honestly, I swear half of it, they just wanted to go home by the end. I mean, they've said that. It just was like, can I please go home and get the F out of this courtroom,
Perfect example, Cuckoo at the end.
Tracy.
I know. Little Aaliyah, I call her.
She does look like it.
She does look like Aaliyah. She's beautiful and smart and sweet. And so I'm so glad they gave, because the jury, the actors that played the jury, they were there for the duration of our filming. Wow. And then they shot that episode at the end because we were kind of over time. And you lose a lot of actors, of the main actors, especially like John Travolta. You lose him because he's contracted for a certain amount of time. So they shot that at the end. So it was very cool to see what they did and what lines they got and how they got and how they divided it all up. And so it was very cool. And we got to know them. We all became such a family by the end. So it was very cool to see all of them.
I wish all of you were with us while we were watching this episode because we were pausing like crazy because we had but they can't, I know, I'm like, pause that, rewind it,
And
you know.
these guys are like, save
But
that,
it was so
save that.
good, and we were like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Well, it's better than when I'm at home and I'm like, wait, pause, rewind, wait, pause it on me, wait, screenshot, you know, so, because it's like
great.
remembering it all. Plus, we shot a lot out of order, and so that one scene at the very beginning of this episode where we're toasting.
Let's talk about that.
With John Travolta, we're toasting Robert Shapiro and the glove and how successful that was for the defense. And we shot that scene almost at the end of shooting. I think it was one of John's final 2 or 3 days. So we were really sort of toasting the show and like we were all very much just having a good time. It was at the end of filming that we were kind of all together still, the dream team, because then you sort of scatter and do little individual scenes.
Did John ever break out of character? Was he kind of holding that Shapiro stance?
Oh no, he's a sweetheart. Yeah, of course. He's like that uncle that you want to sit next to at Thanksgiving. You know, he's like gonna tell you cool stories, gonna be really funny and sweet. You know, he's the best.
He seems like a nice guy.
He's a great guy. He's a great guy. And his whole team that surrounds him, they're all just wonderful. So, and, you know, when you're sort of looking into those blue eyes, like after a while, you know, first you're just like, oh my God, that's John Travolta. Oh my God.
Yeah, I would have been like, hey, Zuko, baby.
I know. And, you know, you want to dance with him and you want to sort of do it, which you do all that by the end. You know, he's just lovely and warm and sweet and generous and, you know.
Now I'm curious. Did we announce and did I have like a mind space time zone where I went into? Did we say what role you had and everything?
Oh yes, of course.
We talked about
Pegah's
that.
on it.
Pegah's
On
all
top
over it.
of it.
I don't know where I went.
Yes.
I was Twilight
I
Zone.
play Sean Chapman, one of
Yeah.
the Dream Team lawyers, one of the only female members of the defense.
Yeah. Okay.
There was another female member, but she didn't make it into our show. I don't know why. There's not enough chairs.
So the defense team's cheersing, but then on the other side we have the people. We have Gil Garcetti losing his mind over this whole glove thing. He can't believe it happened.
Very upset.
It just blew up in you know, Darden's face. So.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a
Which
killer.
is such a bummer. But I love that he did mention the latex part because we all said it last week also. He's like, it
and he didn't like put his
fitted.
thumb down, and he wasn't, you know, and gloves shrink all the time. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
Every
absolutely.
winter when I pull out my leather gloves, I'm like, wait, did I grow? What happened?
Yep.
You know, when you're going to New York
But
or
you know
something.
what? It's a California case, right? So it's like we're not people on the West Coast weren't used to putting on gloves and knowing that they shrink
That's
or
a
anything
great
like that. So
point.
these jurors are going,
No.
it doesn't fit.
It was just a demonstration too,
Yeah.
so it's just very much visual and
It could go anywhere.
The defense knew that, and they sort of baited him into that, and you know.
And I loved that line from Gil Garcetti where, you know, the jury doesn't care about DNA. They
Right.
saw a glove, it didn't fit.
didn't fit.
Yes.
Especially when this was the beginning of our DNA evidence in courtrooms.
Well, I always say, this is pre-CSI.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about DNA and how, you know, and then that TV show came out, and everyone was like, oh, the follicles of the hairs, and it
exactly.
didn't match, and
And now everybody's like,
yeah,
see what the DNA
exactly.
strands
But
were.
if you're sitting there looking at charts, and you know, it's just mind-numbing.
And that's the funny part, because as a lawyer today, it's so difficult to get a conviction without DNA. Because
Right.
now the jury expects it. They've been watching CSI. They know that it's supposed to be this DNA and that profile and that
that
profile.
thing and the-
But if they don't see it, they want to think you're not guilty. So it's the flip of that.
It's so funny too. The character Barry Sheck, who plays that lawyer that was sort of
Right.
cross-examining Fung, he is now very much known for the Innocence Project, and he gets convicted felons out that are innocent.
We're talking about Barry Sheck in reality.
in
Yeah?
reality.
Because of
yeah,
DNA,
his,
yeah.
He's sharp, that dude.
He's very sharp, but it's just
Yeah.
funny that this is the sort of not the beginning of his career, but what he's known for. But really, his mission in life is getting people off with DNA evidence.
Yeah.
So.
But the thing is, though, because of the complexity that they went into with the DNA, so it's not that the DNA was very persuasive, but they went into so much detail
I know.
that
Well,
was.
they thought that it would help, and you know, it's like talking to somebody that's just too smart for their own good, and you know, you just
Yeah.
want to hear like Dr. Phil saying,
Exactly.
"Hey, if it, you know,
Yeah.
if
The
the
glove
glove doesn't
doesn't fit,
fit,
you
you
must
must
quit,
quit." You know,
right?
you just want to hear that simple, the simple, and that was what was so great about Johnny Cochran. He could, you know, as they say in our show, you know, relate to a downtown audience is how they said,
Yeah.
or you
Right.
can communicate with a
Kinda
downtown
like
audience.
Stephanie.
And it's more just, It's just so that you can understand it and hear it. And I think that with the glove, he wanted to make something showy happen, and it just backfired.
Yeah.
Crazy. So we get into the juries, how they're arguing between watching Seinfeld or Martin.
Yeah.
I
That was
totally
great
watched
though,
Martin
because
back
those were
in the day.
two fantastic shows during the same time that completely had to do with like two different cultures.
But
Yeah.
did you notice that the scene after that, OJ was like talking about a Seinfeld episode?
No.
I miss that.
Oh my
You
god.
missed that, so then
I bet he
OJ
was.
says, "Oh, and that Kramer, he needs his own
Yeah.
spinoff." That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because there was like the black and then the white, and then OJ's like Seinfeld.
Exactly.
It was culture, not race, you know?
Yeah,
So-
very much.
It was.
It was a big divide.
Yeah.
But the same thing. I remember calling it Steinfeld. Like I didn't even
I
know
mean,
what it was. I didn't know
I
what.
hated that show
I
when
couldn't
I was a
understand.
kid.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
now I love
Ditto.
it. But I didn't get it back
didn't
then.
get
But
it
yeah,
either.
everybody knew Martin.
Yeah, I didn't watch
well, not
Seinfeld until
everybody,
it was
but
off the air.
Right.
Yeah.
I watched.
No, Martin
Yeah.
that's the one that I understood. Seinfeld, I thought that it was too old for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I
It
was
was
like,
too
I don't
old
get
for
this.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So they're in the jail playing poker with Skittles, which I thought was hilarious.
I know. Oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
Who were the friends that were with him?
They were like
we
his buddies.
Okay,
His,
just-
Yeah.
his Brentwood buddies.
Yep.
Or remember, as he said, Kardashian said, "No, they're
His- your
your
witnesses or something,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that was just how he got his friends in
Oh.
to hang out with them. But they didn't always come. You know.
I'm sure they didn't.
He lost
How
a lot.
difficult.
He lost a lot of friends.
I bet you Bobby
yeah.
had to say, guys, please come through with
Yeah.
me.
There's an episode where he's like, "Where are they?"
And yeah.
Right.
Where's Bob? Where's
Where's-
this?
yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
Let's talk about the DNA trial, Mr. Fung.
Oh,
Yeah.
Fong.
I know, poor guy.
Poor guy, they ripped him
Yeah.
apart.
I know. He starts
Oh,
shaking
ripped him
people's
apart.
hands as he leaves.
That was nuts.
I love
And in
that.
Darton's face, he's shaking. Why is he shaking their hands? I'm like,
I know.
Yeah.
But
He
he's
just seemed so
nervous.
confused.
He was so confused and didn't, he just got taken down. I mean, but you didn't see, because we did so much research, of course,
Right.
and I watched the whole trial, real trial, and they, in that scene, in real life, when he's cross-examining, they're showing images of him not using gloves when he's, they like froze it when he was getting handed something and he didn't have a glove on. Like, they took Fung down.
Oh my god.
Very check.
Yeah.
So it was hard on him to be the DNA expert, and
Oh, man.
it just got, the defense was very good.
And that was a huge moment because that was what Marsha was pinning the rest of her case on.
Everything.
She's like, well, you can't argue with DNA.
Yeah,
You
she
just
thought
can't.
she had the gloves
Yeah.
when they found out that Nicole had bought them, and the shoes and the whole bit, and then now the DNA. I mean, it just gets taken. You can see as
Yeah.
you watch the show, it was a slam dunk case in the beginning. Everybody thought, oh, hands, and now people, I hope the viewers can understand how.
why it turned out
Why
the way that it did.
Everyone's like, how could that happen? I'm like,
That's
well,
it.
after even you said that, you were like,
Yeah.
well, I thought that maybe
'Cause
he would,
This was the episode because I've been trying to assess his guilt based on per episode, just how
Right.
it goes. And this episode, even the glove didn't fit, but the DNA evidence was overwhelming. And after the Fung cross, I was saying,
Yeah.
well,
But you
know
go
what?
back and forth every time.
No, but after the Fung cross, I said, well, now the glove didn't fit. I go back
Right.
to the glove at this point
Yeah.
because I can't rely on that evidence.
Gosh, I'm gonna cut real quick to do this. Curious about a celebrity boyfriend's midlife crisis.
Yes.
All right. Enjoy hearing stories about behind the scenes of Hollywood.
Yeah, of course.
Amused by old TV and movie references.
Always.
Then you'll love The Tomorrow Show with Kevin Undergaro. Join AfterBuzz creator and Maria Menounos' fiance, Kevin Undergaro, along with AfterBuzz co-hosts Roxy Stryer, Ashley Daniels, and others for all of the insanity. Watch live Monday and Thursday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time on thetomorrowshow.com, or subscribe and download free on iTunes. Go to thetomorrowshow.com for more information. Back to Mr. Fung.
I have a question. Someone said here, laugh out loud, did they add the fortune cookie scene?
What was the fortune cookie scene?
Oh, that must have been something that had to do with the real trial then.
Yeah.
Fortune?
Don't know.
Gotta look
Sorry,
that up.
but just so you all know, I am on the live chat roll.
Chat.
So,
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
They
what
said
that was.
thought that they would add that in. Yeah, we don't know.
for me, when they were doing that whole DNA thing and when it got so complex, from a psychological perspective, because I've done a lot of speaking over the years, trained a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists, and a concept called anchoring, which is essentially stimulus response and when you reverse engineer stimulus response, you can make a deeper impact in the neurology of a human being if you can make something more succinct and powerful. So they were all over the place with the prosecution, but then when the defense comes up and uses what we call a phrase anchor, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. At the end of the day, that's the one thing that you think of that phrase, and that won the case for them. That was it. So the simplicity of the demonstrations on the defense side versus what the prosecution was attempting to demonstrate is what won the case.
I don't think that's what won the case. I think the defense just really piece by piece took apart all the prosecution's witnesses. I mean, because Fung was the best one. Fung was the good, and to watch them take him apart, that to me wins the case.
Ultimately, at the end of the day,
DNA,
the one thing that stood out in everybody's mind was that one. I mean, when anybody that watched the trial, if you go back and you think about it, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. That's enough.
People still remember that.
But I think that's from a lay perspective. I think the jurors, if Fung's testimony was not taken down the way it was, I think they go guilty.
It was very much. They just had to instill reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
that's all that they had to do. So they just had to cause doubt in every single little tiny.
And they were just able to kind of like.
So it just raises a question, so that you can't then convict a man of murder if you have a little bit of doubt, and that's our justice system. And they just knew how to do that. Mm-hmm. And the prosecution was exhausted. They were just exhausted and missed a few things, and they tried on the glove and. Certain witnesses were thrown out because they had sold their stories. I mean, it was not easy, and the defense it was a dream team. They never got tired.
Yeah, and that missing blood. That's what I was just like.
So there were three things Chuck brings up, right?
Yeah.
So missing blood, the fact that the blood was handed to them.
Yeah.
By
the
police.
LAPD,
Okay. And then the blanket that they used to cover Nicole's body obviously has his DNA on it.
Yeah.
So,
and Van Adder took the blood overnight, never done before in his history.
Yeah. So
no, that wasn't blood. That was
it was like the shoes.
The
was it the shoes? He took to
Was
in
it the
his
shoes?
Trunk.
It wasn't the blood.
No, that is ridiculous, and it was excessive. And again, like we all just mentioned earlier, it was these things specifically that you're like, oh,
we're like, well, if the blood was missing, or if now, how did they get the blood in the Bronco, in the socks, on the gate, when the OJ's blood hadn't been taken till the next day? I mean. Well, you remember the episode last week when Marcia tries to break it all down.
That was the thing. We never seen her do that in the trial.
Yeah,
no, I know. You wish you would have pulled out those shot glasses in the middle of the courtroom.
Right?
Look, how is all that going to happen when everyone's watching? Now, something could have been planted. Something could have been mishandled. People may have padded but it doesn't explain it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and once you've created the narrative, the LAPD is doing something wrong, and now we have missing blood. And now the jury, we saw, is already feeling there's racial tension amongst them.
But it was Los Angeles. I mean, I'm from here, and I lived here during the riots, 1992. I was at John Burroughs Junior High School, where Sean Chapman went as well, which is so cool.
You went to John Burroughs in Burbank?
No, John Burroughs Junior High, which is at
High.
It's on 6th and Wilshire.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Or not 6th. It's in between 6th and Wilshire.
Here,
interesting.
Near Highland. It's LA.
Like mid Wilshire.
Hancock Park.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's a junior high. I was in 7th grade. So now you can count my age. Even though you already said how old I was.
Yeah, I blew it.
But no, I was here in 92, and it was very much a racial divide. I grew up in Koreatown, and I remember just when the tanks rolled in, literally, there were tanks. Can you imagine a tank coming down Wilshire Boulevard? A tank. So, on the first day, it was sort of getting going. The second day, we were put off school, and then the third day, the tanks rolled in and they were shutting it down. So it was crazy. And this is 2 years later.
Right.
Wow.
Tanks. I didn't remember that part.
So you know where Crenshaw hits Wilshire and dead ends, and there's like a Masonic temple.
Yep.
There were tanks there.
That's crazy.
You are not coming into Hollywood.
Yeah.
Even though the stuff got burned down in Koreatown where I lived. I mean, it was everywhere. So this was a very racially charged time. And the LAPD needed to be exposed for their corruption, and that, I think, was Johnny Cochran's mission.
Right.
Bigger than O.J. Simpson was to expose the LAPD.
Injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the thing is with oh gosh, I had something good to say and I totally lost it. You know what happened?
Age will do that to you.
It's injustice.
My girl Angel got me right
She loves it.
See, you're in your
loves it.
40s.
Somewhere up there, you know.
So let's talk about
I'm
how
looking forward to my 40s. I'm going to be great in my 40s.
you're going to be.
now. 40s are the new 30s. So.
Man,
Thank
I'm going
you.
to tell
Thank
more
you,
people how I
Stephanie.
really feel.
Yeah.
I'm going to be one of those crickety old ladies, but I'm still going to look good.
So Judge Ito starts bringing in the jurors one by one because they're finding these things out about them. I
Yeah.
mean, one of them was charged with domestic abuse for kidnapping his girlfriend.
Man, he just put her in the car and drove around the block a
No,
couple
it's-
times.
The trunk or the...
Right? And then later we see the lady comes in who was unfortunately
called her
raped by her
yeah.
husband.
But it wasn't rape in 1988.
Oh.
I can't. That was no. I know.
No,
of course
yeah.
it was. But that was just
But
crazy the way he sat there and said it. And I
But-
was like,
Did you see
damn.
that look that Sarah Paulson gave him?
Yeah.
Or Marcia
Yeah.
gave him?
It
Marcia was like,
out
"You
of
did
disgust.
not."
Yeah.
And she actually said
But-
that. She said, you didn't just
But
say that, did
he
you?
had to, he's got to argue the law.
Right,
And
of
so
course,
he's
of
got to
course.
tell the judge, look, legally, this was not considered that. So
Right.
I know lawyers, man. Lawyers.
And F. Lee Bailey, he was like a law book.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
you know, he was like the equivalent
You know he's
of
been
the internet
disbarred now.
online. Really?
Yeah.
Wow, what
God, and
happened?
I love him though. Well, I mean, I
Series
guess I
of
love this
things.
actor really,
Yeah.
Series of things. Yeah, he's disbarred.
Huh?
but I just
Interesting.
I mean, the defense, most of them have not fared well.
yeah.
Wow,
It's,
yeah.
yeah, it's actually yeah.
Well,
it's
Sean
not-
Chapman, she's on top of the world.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Cochran until he passed was doing very well.
but
Yeah.
he you know he died
Yeah.
a very terrible
Early,
death,
yeah.
and it's been hard for a lot of them. Barry Sheck is still
But he's
still known for this, but he's the great work he's done. Hopefully will be his legacy.
How much did you have a lot of contact with the real people
With
after
Sean?
the word? Yeah, with Sean and with.
Oh yeah, I met Sean and she had me over.
Oh wow.
She's
Nice.
great.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. They have to do the People versus Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah,
and
that'll
then
be
I'll come in and
front
play
and center.
her. That's Sean Chapman.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
Sean's
Lindsay
representing
Lohan's-
her?
You
Sean
know,
Chapman Holly, yeah.
I was in
Sean.
rehab with
well,
Lindsay
she's
Lohan.
she's now Sean Holly.
Yeah.
Right, but still, that's hers.
Yeah, you remember her, Lindsay Lohan and her lawyer and all the
Oh, yeah.
that's the same woman.
That's funny.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's
Dang, she
She-
stayed right there.
oh yeah, she works in a lot of celebrity defense, but she's just dynamic and powerful.
Right, of course.
Yeah, super successful.
I was in
Amazing.
Betty Ford with Lindsay
Sean?
Lohan. With Lindsay. With Sean.
I was like, with Sean? No. Oh, with
with
Lindsay.
Sean.
Yeah, no, Lindsay's doing great. You never hear about people when they're doing great.
Right,
Yeah,
of course.
right, yeah.
But they want to hear about your problems.
Oh yeah, no. She's doing.
It's a good
great.
incentive to have lots of problems. Yeah. For some. Yeah.
So let's talk about this jury, alternates. Shaka, shed some light on that for us.
Well, just in terms of the process itself,
Yes.
yeah, they had 12 jurors and they had 12 alternates, and the alternates are treated like jurors, so they go through the entire process as if they are jurors, but they take no vote when the final count comes. What I didn't know was that they got down to four alternates.
It's crazy.
So that really shows you the gamesmanship that was played on both sides to start to eliminate jurors that weren't favorable.
Yeah, but you don't want to.
They only had 4 remaining alternates? Is that
Yeah, at one
alternates,
point,
'cause
yeah.
they started
Okay.
to get rid of so many, but you get down to none, and it's a mistrial.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you got to start all over again.
And I think we saw they knew that if F. Lee says to Cochran, if this is a mistrial, he'll be convicted.
Yep. Yeah.
Because all those little things that went in their favor were because they caught the prosecution off guard.
Exactly.
And so if they come in prepared and ready,
Yeah.
it's not going to look good.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
funny because in the civil trial, they find pictures of OJ wearing the Bruno Magli shoes. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
which
like
they didn't have for the
which they
criminal
didn't have
trial.
for the criminal trial.
Wow.
And the gloves. They have pictures of him wearing the gloves,
Yeah.
pictures of him wearing the shoes.
Yeah, the gloves, I mean, there's a size
Wow.
large. Extra
Yeah.
large is what the gloves were, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the size it takes for an extra large hand.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Rob.
Kardashian?
Yes.
Yeah, this was low key
He's-
his episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just was so.
He's breaking down.
He is. He's breaking down. The
Breaking down,
numbers.
tormented.
He keeps saying the numbers throughout this episode. He's 1 out of 170 million. I mean, that's hard to swallow.
Yeah.
And we see him later on with Chris, and I didn't expect him to say, he's going to be out of our lives. I didn't know at that point that he was so fed up.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be maybe
I'm sure he
much
is.
later
Like,
on.
I've said this before, and I'm gonna keep saying that. Like, your friends, and even though, I'm sure there have been plenty of cases in history where you get really surprised and you would never think someone would do something like that. But OJ, the Juice, had such a very distinctive and strong personality. And like you said, he's known him for 20 plus years. Yeah. It's one of those things, and he knows Nicole, and he knows the dynamic, and he's always been around them. And that's like his whole question was, who else would have done it? No one would have done that. Like, no one hated on Nicole like that. She didn't have that much of a lifestyle. And, like, OJ and her been through some stuff. And I'm willing to bet that Bobby has split them up before during, like, a physical fight. You know? Because, like, there are friends who are around, like, couples who are like that back in the day. I feel like I grew up seeing that between, like, you know, aunts and uncles and parents and stuff like that, where, like, they get in the way and the kids have to go to the room. And, like, you know, everyone's just fighting.
Right,
so,
chill out.
Exactly, you know? So that's all I could keep playing in my head is that they know that, and then whatever Chris knows about the things that Nicole used to tell her, of course Chris would confide in Bobby. And I'm just saying, there's just too much that we knew about him, so it broke my heart to hear him say, like, I have to sit there. Like, remember what we were saying, like, he's a good friend, like, and
he's a good friend.
And he was protecting his family though too, like he said. It would have just blown up in their face like twice as hard.
Yeah, to watch him have that crisis of conscience and then still have to just look at the bigger picture and stay. And yeah, it was definitely, I thought, his episode where you really saw the emotional complexity of Robert Kardashian.
Yeah.
Emotional complexity and torture. Like, he seemed to really be tortured, because here he was, and that's what you get from the inside. He was saying, I know everything. I know all the evidence. I'm seeing it from the defense side, and I think he's guilty.
They're
There's
like,
no doubt about
We'll take care
it.
of it. No, don't worry. We got this.
And yet he's such a good friend to OJ, because what does he say? He's like, yeah, they're asking. Remember?
Yeah, but I see Schwimmer's acting there, and he's playing both. He's so brilliant. You know? He's like saying, I'm asking.
Yes.
Right.
It's just...
That's what he said. This was a great role for him. This,
so
this
great. But I've
really...
seen, I mean, his journey. It's sort of that quiet kind of friend, but it's, you know, and you'll see next week, and then
it's
it's the
powerful.
final episode.
I know we all, at the beginning, we were all saying, oh, it's Ross. How can we look
Which
at Ross
he's a
from
great
Friends?
friend.
Yeah.
He'll be there for you. But it's not, you know, but David Schwimmer's a wonderful actor.
It just expanded his range for us as an audience.
Yes,
Yeah.
I hope that that's the case. But he's
for sure.
And
he's fantastic. He's got a theater in Chicago. He's a wonderful actor. So
And if anything, he made me think OJ did it. When I looked at the evidence, this episode, I came to the conclusion OJ possibly just did not do this. There's too much doubt. But then I looked at his performance, and you think to yourself, your best friend knows you. They're trying to be on your side. If he thinks you're guilty, you might just be guilty.
Right.
people said that. Well, when the verdict is read, his face just
we searched
I
it.
replayed that over and over again.
Yeah.
It's just,
But they knew that he was going to be found not guilty because of like the paperwork and how it is and how they dismissed the jury. You know, no one was surprised.
So they saw
but I
it
think
coming.
it's still just hearing it out loud. Pardon me?
They saw it coming in advance.
Yes, because of like the paper, you know, it's kind of like if you get accepted to college, you're waiting for your college acceptance letter, and either you get the envelope that says no, or you get the package with the.
You mean one with handed?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. When you get accepted to college, you're like, if I get the, you know, of course it may be different nowadays. You know, in my back in the day.
No, it's exactly.
But you know, you get the envelope or you get the package with all the paperwork.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of one of those kind of things. They knew. And it happened so quickly. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Yeah. That's not long.
On the chat roll, Jessica Sares, she goes, Rob knew of OJ's guilt, and then she made a funny comment. You're funny, girl. She said, I need a Rob K kind of friend in my life. He's a down-ass vato.
Down-ass vato.
And then we have another one. Griffin said that OJ was around when Robert was going through his hard time, so he's naturally going to be loyal to him. But the stress with all the evidence is like weighing on him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if he looked out for him before, he's trying to look out for him.
But you have a best friend. I mean,
it is what it is. You do it no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, even AC people saying, how would he just get in the car and just drive him, you know, if there was money in the car, just guys in the car. And I'm like, there's friends that would say, I need your help, let's go. And you would just, no
ride or die.
Asked.
That's what the...
No questions asked. You'd be like, okay, I'm here for you.
You got to question, though, what would be the legal responsibility of the friend that does that?
Accessory.
They could be accessory, but if they have knowledge of what's happening, and if they don't know what's
after
happening,
the fact.
If they're caught up in the confusion of the moment, is there any kind of a defense that could be?
Of course, if they don't know what they're doing,
Well, they tried to try AC, and in the beginning we talked about that, and then they ended up dropping the case as an accessory, but
they couldn't get him to turn on OJ, right?
No, you don't really hear much about AC Cowlings now. You don't really.
Yeah, I'm
It's
surprised.
hard. I
they
mean,
didn't-
this affected so many people's lives.
Right.
It's just,
That's the one thing we keep hearing that
yeah,
trips me
it's
out.
not a positive time in any one of these people's lives. So,
Let's talk about Juror 452, as Ito likes to
Who
call
was
her,
that?
Tracy.
Tracy, who's Tracy?
Aaliyah lookalike.
Oh, that lost her mind.
Yeah.
She took her shoes off
That
and
was,
then.
she prepped for it and
Yeah,
her
she was taking
jacket.
it.
Wow,
Okay.
we rewound that one. Remember, I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what happened? Rewind again. Let me see what, because I'm so interested in the acting and how the actors sort of get to that moment.
Yeah, we've never rewound or talked so much as with you.
No, but that was, I'm just saying
It was
that.
good, though.
What I
It
was,
was-
yeah, it was so great to hear all the insides.
Yeah.
You know, like all the little things that you mentioned,
Yeah.
the stuff about the music and
Well,
so
yeah,
on and so forth.
that's the thing too, is that music's not cheap.
Yeah.
The music, the rights to that, and what songs they choose. Remember the Bronco chase when it was Sabotage?
Yeah.
Like the Beastie Boys don't give out their music,
Right.
and so for them to approve it or pay for it, and it's a big deal, when you're watching these shows. And then even Johnny Cochran in this episode sings, "Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier," and they have to pay for that. And I remember shooting it, and we shot it with that song, and then we shot it with him singing something else,
Just in case, yeah.
just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, the musical
You,
rights.
you see
Yeah.
it a lot on Netflix a lot. So a lot of your old shows that you watch on Netflix, a lot of times you'll watch them and the songs are different. Even the theme songs are different
Yeah, I've
because of
noticed
that rights. Yeah.
Don't make fun of me, but with Dawson's Creek, it's not, I don't want to wait. It's
Oh,
all
it's
just
not?
I'm always making fun of you, girl.
Yeah, it's all the
Good.
music
Yeah.
rights.
no,
yeah.
but no. It turns that. What season are you on?
No. It's all the
It's all
it-
6. It's on like
no,
5.
it's the,
Oh, is
it's the
it?
musical rights. That's why they
Yeah.
couldn't use it.
I
for
did,
all the
I did that. I
seasons,
wrote I read a couple of books. In my first book, I took the lyrics from Elvis Presley's "If I Can Dream," and I wrote the lyrics out inside that book. And they charged me. They said, "We'll charge you X amount, but if your book sales go over this, then we're gonna." It's like
Yeah.
It was a scary prospect because if it goes, if you get the success that you want, you continue to pay. So, you know.
So Tracy,
Kinda
number
sucks.
452, goes to Lance Ito and says, they're treating us unfairly. They gave the others an hour at Target. We got half an hour at Ross. She makes this statement, and he takes it very seriously and says, okay, we'll switch out the deputies, the shift or whatever. So they go in the next day, and we see a whole new set of cops looking after the jurors. Let's talk about the lady who was dressed in all black. What was her motive? What was she
What was
doing?
that all about?
Oh, the foreman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
look,
she was
it's
just
silent.
very calm and collected the entire time, understood the situation, but then once they switched out even the deputies, I think she just felt like, okay, now you guys are just playing us. Like, this is too much. You know?
What they brought up at some point
Mm-hmm.
Stockholm Syndrome. When did
Yes.
what was that in regards to?
Just them all going crazy.
So basically, you take on the mentality of your captor. So is it that they're they've been captured by the prosecution, now they're like all with the prosecution side, or what's happening? So that's
Yeah,
that
she
was the idea.
picked up them eggs and was done.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was
Honey
just
eggs,
like
and she was like, I'm done. But she was already in black, I think, at that
Yeah.
point.
She
Yeah,
was.
she was already
Yeah,
ready.
they were just, you just want to feel like you have some sense of power, and I can't imagine when that power's taken away that you've got to sit there and choose between two TV shows with the group forever. What feels like forever.
And what was that struck me is from the outset with the jury, they're referring to them by number. They're not treating them
Right.
like people.
They're like
Exactly.
inmates.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
in prison as well.
452.
Yeah, they have
give me that
con-
book. You might get it back.
Yeah,
Right.
once a week conjugal visits. I mean, can you imagine not being with your spouse for 8 months and
And there was somebody counting the conjugal visits.
Yeah.
that was,
it was crazy.
for a
So-
book, and that was true too. I remember
Oh,
at the
people
time
wrote
they were
books.
writing
People
books, and they
showed
were,
up on TV. I mean, it was the beginning of all of that. News
Yeah.
media coverage of reality.
So OJ wants to testify.
Oh my god!
Let me on that stand.
Never a good idea.
That's another.
Why? Sorry.
Well, because your client can always hurt themselves.
Of course.
It's very rare where they can help themselves in that situation. Whether or not they're guilty of the crime, they can just hurt themselves on cross. And so you want to keep your client away from the stand.
Just through the way they show up energetically, or in the perception of the jury.
Because of cross-examination. Once you put your client on the stand who's not a savvy legal person, they might open the door on
something
direct.
you don't
and
want.
so on
Right.
cross-examination, now, for instance, Marsha could ask all about the past domestic violence, and he might give answers that do not resonate well with the jury.
Or his,
Yeah.
specifically his personality.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to understand
Right.
his, pompous
So-
ass, the way he was acting in the jail cell.
Right.
Now, the way how he had mentioned, we wonder about which parts of these scenes are true or not, considering, I mean, I guess all the lawyers were there for when they did that mock trial with him.
Yeah.
But I just really wonder if those were like his types of reactions, like his little grin and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It would make sense that it would be, he had a air of cockiness about him, and he
Well,
had a good
Well,
sense of
O.J.
self.
Simpson was a
Yeah.
very dynamic, very confident person.
And to have a woman interrogating him,
I just think
that
when
looked kind of like Marsha Clark.
Yeah.
They did all that.
Because you try to mimic that scenario, but I think he was very charismatic, so he knew that on a direct he would be able to kind of carry the jury.
Yeah.
It's on that cross-examination when they get you and they pin you to a wall. How are you going to react? And we already know he's got an anger problem.
You
Do we
get
really want to
aggressive,
get him?
to see if they could push him to that point.
So I have no doubt he would have charmed them to some degree, but on cross-examination, too many X factors.
Yeah, and I wonder if he was even responding the way that he was, thinking that he was gonna seem lighthearted, like, oh, you see, look at how nice
so
I
funny
am.
and charming.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, and it's like, no, you need to be much more sensitive about these and all these questions and have to
Yeah.
be serious
and not be dismissive. or-
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you're not clued up from a legal perspective, you don't know what trap you're falling
Exactly.
into.
Yeah.
And you think you got it all made.
As
but-
we already saw with Fuhrman, so we'll see how that comes back to hit him.
Oh
But
my
yeah, he
God.
fell nicely into that legal trap.
Yeah, but
Wow.
Fuhrman does well. He doesn't get rattled. That's
Yeah.
why Marsha Clark felt so confident putting him on the stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was because she's like, he did well in his mock trial, or whatever it was called, and always had the same story. He was a well, I'm not going to say he was a great cop.
A good
He
cop on
was-
the stand. On the stand when he testified, he was
Right.
good in that. In that way.
Yeah, we can't say he was a great cop, I don't
We
think.
can't
with the
even
background
say
that
he
we
was
know.
a decent cop.
But it
Yeah.
sounds like procedurally he was sound. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Procedurally, he was sound. He was on paper,
Yeah.
But next week when they hear those tapes, ugh.
Yeah, and I don't think those tapes come in unless F. Lee gets him into that little hole on cross-examination. Oh, so you've never used
Yes,
this word.
that was
Yeah.
amazing.
And that's what gets him to set up bringing in people to bring in other evidence to show that he had said these things or
Yeah.
did things that were against that.
And then at the end of this episode, McKenna, the private investigator,
Oh yeah,
OJ
that
tip
tip
line.
line.
The OJ tip
The
line.
OJ tip line.
Well, no, he
Yeah,
really
but
did his
it's-
work though. This McKenna guy.
yeah,
He's-
is it McKenna or McKinney? So it's a little confusing. I think
Yeah.
he's McKenna, and the tapes were recorded by a woman named McKinney,
who was writing a book.
who was
with
writing
Fuhrman, right?
writing a script, a screenplay
About-
cops, and she interviewed Mark Fuhrman for that, and that's why she had all these taped recordings of him, and he was telling stories of being a police officer.
What are the odds?
Oh yeah, that's what we're seeing next week, isn't it?
That's what we see next
What
week.
are the odds?
That's what we hear next week.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
And they're
I can't
sickening
believe
because
it.
we had to listen to them as actors. They're sickening.
Yeah.
Are they? Are they
Wow.
of actual Fuhrman?
They're of
Yeah,
action.
Actually.
Yeah.
How much did you review the entire case while you were prepping for this?
I watched and read everything.
Really? So all over. I mean, there was a lot of material.
Yeah, I watched and read everything.
No
but I had
kidding.
time to prep. I knew I had the role. So I read a lot, like crammed when I had the audition. And then I watched everything that Sean Chapman had ever done that was online. And then when I got the role and briefed myself on the trial, I remember because my mom watched the trial.
Right.
You come home. I was old. I was in high school.
Right.
So I remember, but you remember the glove doesn't fit. You must have quit. You remember
Yeah.
the sort of points. But I watched the entire trial. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube. I remember I was going out to Palm Springs for a girls' weekend and stuck in traffic, and I just had it in my auxiliary and my phone there because it's so damn boring. You don't have to watch it. But I remember listening. That was when I listened to F. Lee Bailey's Cross because it's actually like 8 hours. These things are long, and I
Yeah.
remember just being like, "Wait, what?" And same deal, like rewind.
Yeah.
What? So it was fascinating, and I read, of course, Toobin's book. There's a lot of books about the defense that I read, so it was just.
Now speaking of
there's
Toobin's
YouTube,
book,
YouTube.
Yeah.
It's all on
It's on.
YouTube.
you mentioned that it wasn't just from Toobin's book that this series was drawn.
No, it's based on Toobin's book.
Primarily.
100% based on
Okay.
his telling of the story. But the writers read every book because you can't. You need to sort of know everyone's sort
Yeah.
of perspective, and then, Marsha Clark, Sarah Paulson's reading Marsha Clark's book. Sterling Brown is reading Chris Darden's book, but then they each read each other's book. Like everyone read everything. It was sort of like whose book is on whose chair right now. And then when three people's books say that this particular thing happened, this behind the scenes meeting happened, then it's true.
You get greater insight.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, they were very thorough. to get everything
You really
right.
did prep though, because you're like ridiculously informative. That's great. She sounds like Michael Freeman over here. The one who read that book.
Fantastic, yeah.
Thank you. No, you
Of
have
course.
to, and it's funny because I don't even have a big part, but it's just you want to know what's
course.
going on, you know.
You have to,
Yeah, and I remember Sean Chapman saying to me how hard it was to be there every day and have the Goldmans over her right shoulder. And we shot a lot because we did a lot of the Cochran firm. We did a lot. We didn't get into the courtroom. You asked earlier, or when we were watching, where we shot, and we shot on 2 sound stages at Fox, on the Fox lot. So the courtroom was on one sound stage, and the other sound stage was the offices, the DA, attorney, and Cochran's firm. So we would go back and forth. So by the time we got to the trial, you walk in, it was all built exact. The wood, there was a ceiling, and usually there's not ceilings.
Right, it's like open lights.
Yeah, it's open lights, but they wanted that sort of look of the lighting of the court. I mean, it was all so legit. And I remember because we couldn't meet at first because they didn't really want us reaching out to our people. And when we finally kind of the reins were lifted to meet our people.
That was midway through the filming, or was it?
Pardon me?
Where were you? At what point was that? When
it was probably halfway through.
About halfway through.
Yeah. Maybe a third of the way through. And I just remember her saying they were over my right shoulder. And then I remember sitting in the trial or sitting in the courtroom, and they're right there because it's true to size. And I was like, that's what she was talking about. Like, the Goldmans are right behind me. So when she does her big cry that everyone knows is so famous when her hair flips down, and they're just sobbing, and they're right over your right shoulder. And so I didn't understand what she meant by that. She goes, it's hard to be there every single day, and you got the Goldmans over your right shoulder. And then I'm sitting there, and I was like,
They were literally
Over the right
here.
shoulder.
over
Damn.
your right shoulder. I mean, one row behind you. Just sitting there.
That's crazy.
After doing all that, what are your feelings toward about the Goldmans and their?
I mean, they lost their child. That's something you never want to go through.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's a sensational story, but 2 people were brutally murdered.
Yeah.
Right.
And Nicole was my age, as we now know, but that and had 2 young children, which I have, and it's just to be 35. I think she was 36 actually. And to lose your life in that way, I mean, she was nearly decapitated. And Ron Goldman was stabbed like 26 times and stabbed after he was dead. I mean, he was fighting for his life, for her life. He was, it's just no way to go.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'd hate to end it on that.
I'm sorry, but it's true. If we're gonna end it on something, let's remember what this is all
Can I ask
about.
a quick question? Quick question. What struck me was a scene in the last episode where Marsha walks in and she just feels like she's in this boys' club. Did you feel that on set of the idea that they were?
Great question. Yeah.
They were alone as women. That they were just felt like 100%, they were.
100%. And it took a while for Sarah and I to warm up to each other because she was so focused and she was shooting 2 TV shows. And I was very much just like, don't fall down. Like, don't say anything stupid. Don't fall down. And I would just watch her. And I'm sure she could feel me watching her. And she's like, this girl. And then, we warmed up and we're, very close by the end. But it was very much this boys thing. And they sort of touched on that in episode 6 at the end when she's being ridiculed for her hair. Yeah. They would sort of cut to me as a woman just how
and I would feel that,
you could feel just your heart goes out to another woman that's trying to do this. Or there's times when we were acting, and I don't know if the camera picks that up, when we would be in scenes together, Sean and Marsha would make eyes with each other. There's no way that you don't. You're the only women in the room that you don't make eyes with each other. So as actors, we in our roles, we definitely had that dynamic, and who knows if it shows up on the show.
It
but
does, absolutely.
But it's very much that. It's kind of like 2 black people being in the only black people in the room. You notice each other. You kind of say, hey, what's up? Hey, okay, we're here. Being a woman, and in the boys' club, you understand that, and it's hard.
And what was behind it energetically for you as an actor, as you're looking in her eyes?
Oh my God, Sarah Paulson's looking at me. Oh my God! No. It's more, you're in character. You're just sort of, that was a good point that was made, or whatever the scene. It was a lot of times when we were in Ito's chambers. It's just like, okay. And you sort of just, it's you sizing each other up, and you're all in this small space. Yeah. They were so close to each other, and we're at war.
Right. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining
thank
us.
you
Now that
for
you're
having
wrapped,
me.
what are you up to?
Oh, I just booked a show for NBC
Yeah.
called Trial and Error about a man who kills his wife.
Wait a minute.
But
wait
it's a
minute.
comedy.
Synchronicity.
It's a comedy
Good,
with
good.
John Lithgow, who I love.
Yes.
So I get to get back to sort of the comedy side because I did a Disney show for many years, and so I love that's a
Mom
great.
and Dad Parts.
Oh yeah, you know Lab Rats.
Yeah.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, Lab Rats.
Lab
I was
Rats.
on Lab Rats. Yeah, so I played the mom on the show. Mom of teenagers, which is
You're like, wait a minute.
stretch. But no. So to get back to doing a comedy, this is a single camera comedy, kind of close to Parks and Rec and The Office kind of vibe. So we'll see if that goes.
Awesome.
But I get to shoot that, and so it's exciting. It's
Very
an
nice.
exciting time. But I'm still so proud of OJ. Everywhere I go, people are talking about it. I was there somewhere today. I was at the hair shop, and he's like, "Are you guys watching OJ?" And then it's sort of this pause of like, "Are they gonna love it or hate it?" And then of course someone ruins it. They're like, "She's on it." Yeah. So
That
it's-
probably would have been me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, y'all better start
But
applauding.
people wanna talk about it, and
Of course.
I love talking about it. And I love talking about acting, and I love talking
Yeah.
about. So it's all good.
So it's meaningful. It's meaningful to you as a project, though, to have been involved in.
Oh, hands down. It was a huge stepping stone in my career, and just to be in a room with those actors and being able to work with them and see how they work and then understand, it gives me a confidence moving forward into my next projects. And just fantastic. I mean, Ryan Murphy, my goodness, you don't get better than that right now in television.
Yep.
So it's like working with Norman Lear back in the day, it's one of the greats.
Where can everybody find you on social media?
Oh, my name, Angel Parker. On Instagram, I'm Angel Parker LA because some other girl got Angel Parker.
I feel
But
you,
she's
me
cool.
too.
I follow her and I like her pictures. She's cool. She's all right. She lives in New York. But so Angel Parker. And then what's my Snapchat? I don't know what it is.
Is it Angel Parker?
Well, you'll have to
It
find
might
it and tweet
be
it.
because they
Yeah.
gave me. I did one of my first Snapchats with you.
Yay!
I'm learning
Great.
slowly but surely.
And you can all find me on Twitter at Stephanie Giorgi and on Instagram at the Stephanie Giorgi.
Yeah, I know because somebody else got it.
Yeah.
And you can find me at Shaka Strong on Twitter and Instagram.
And at Chris Howard Live for me on Twitter, Instagram.
Twitter and Instagram for me as well at Pegah Rad. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye. See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.